Alright, there. Welcome back to another video. Okay. Alright, for this video, I wanted to specifically talk. There's a dilemma I've recently had, just to get right into the fucking meat of the video. There's one dilemma I've had, which I sort of solved. So basically, I've been stuck at 200-300 words drafting every single day. Ever since I began writing, I have been drafting mainly because I see this book series I'm writing as like the first period I have to just write a lot. I've been very conflicted between should I go back and revise anything, etc. But every time I ask AI, which is my biggest life coach, I get the answer that, okay, well, in the start period, there's sort of these chunks really. So the first time when I'm creating a story, it's a lot about pumping out a volume and getting a lot of words down and world building the stuff and making the image clear. And then revision is a separate process that happens later after you've gotten the manuscript down, even though it's messy as shit, but you still have something. I was capped at 200-300 words because of one specific problem, which is the thing I'm going to talk about in this video. And that was that I basically merged two processes together. The first one was I tried to draft, let's say in a normal morning, I'd wake up, have a coffee, go upstairs and open my MacBook and go into the manuscript on Scrivener, which is the app I use, the writing app. And then I set a 1 hour and 30-minute timer, and as I began to draft a little bit, and then I'd suddenly stop, and my brain would start to think about a different word I could use, and that cut my flow off and basically ended my drafting short, because basically when I first got into the flow, when I began drafting and it was going a little quicker, I began thinking about what kind of verb I should use, or noun or adjective in this place to make the text as best as possible. And that was a bit of an insecurity. So basically the two processes I combined, which I shouldn't have done, is that I'm trying to actively recall words and think of words I can use in the text. I have no idea what else I can call that. And then I was drafting. The one is supposed to be careful and it takes some time, you have to think of the word. The other one, the drafting process, is supposed to be just fucking rambling, ugly, big fat draft right on the page, right? I combined these two, which slowed me down to 200-300 words. As I changed this, and what I specifically did was that I just split the two processes. I ended up now, as I can literally show you in my calendar, you get what I mean. I don't know if you can see that very well. You might not, so I'll just read it up. It says at 8 o'clock, I'll start with active vocabulary retrieval on yesterday's page. What I basically did right here is that I took the process that ruined my entire drafting flow or process, where I'm supposed to write ugly and where I'm not supposed to fixate on finding a new different verb instead of was, for example. That's a big one I always struggle with. And so I basically, the active recall of vocabulary thing is something I just really wanted to do, and I made that into its own thing in my calendar right before I begin drafting. So I basically, in a way, use that as a warm-up. So what I do is I go back to yesterday's scene, which I wrote, and I just start reading, and I just think, oh, what kind of verb could I use here instead? What kind of noun could I use here instead? Or what kind of adjective I could use here instead? And then I sort of get into Roman's head, my main character's head, and I get into the story, and when I begin the drafting, which starts approximately 10 minutes after I've 10 minutes in, when I've done this active recall thing in the last 10 minutes, then I'm already like in the story, and it's actually easier to draft. And at that point, I've gotten my desire of actively retrieving words and feeling productive in the sense that I'm actually learning new words. Then it's easier to allow myself to write ugly and let a was be there, or some other random verb or noun or adjective or whatever. And yeah, that is basically it. Let me see if I've forgotten anything else. Yeah, as for you, like when I first began writing, I was doing this thing. I was combining these two different processes together, and I'm like 9-10 months in now, and now I'm realizing it. So if you're in your beginning stages and you want to write your own story and begin becoming a writer, it would probably, I'd very much advise, or yeah, based on my own experience, that you keep the drafting ugly. It's a different process than like active recalling of verbs and making your text look prettier, and by having nicer prose. It's, yeah, I'd say separate those two. Separate those two, and you'll most likely experience that, oh shit, like now you're suddenly drafting a lot more words. I personally did 700 words so that's fucking 500 word increase from 200 words that I most often wrote, and I felt fucking awesome. It's much cooler when your like hands start like going as well, that you're actually typing away. I find that very cool and exhilarating when you're sitting here in a nice room with your wonderful family. What the fuck? I forgot the word. The thing right there, this one. And when you're sitting in your nice room and you just write right away, it's you and the fucking page. That page is going to die. I'm gonna end the video there. Hope you got something out of it. Split those two processes. I prefer to do the active recall of verbs by going through the yesterday's scene and then doing that, and I feel like I get the most out of that. And I also have it as a bit of this warm-up before the drafting process. Then I draft, and I actually can let myself, like I can let my shoulders sink, and I can write ugly, and that helps me get more words on the page, and it's fucking lovely. So take care, have a wonderful first day. Yes. Yeah. Take care.